Spiritual Gifts and Spiritualization. The Third Testament. Revelations of Jesus Christ. Chapter 48. The spiritual abilities of human beings. Thus saith the Lord. When this skeptical, incredulous, and materialist humanity finds itself faced with a divine manifestation, or what they call miracles, they instantly seek out explanations or evidence to demonstrate that there was no supernatural action, that there was no miracle. When a man appears manifesting an uncommon spiritual gift, mockery, doubt, and indifference arise before him to quiet his voice. And when nature, that instrument of my divinity, gives voice to calls to justice and warning messages for men, they attribute all to chance. Humanity has never been so insensitive, so blind and deaf to all that is divine, all that is spiritual and eternal as it is today. Millions of men call themselves Christian, but the majority of them do not know the doctrine of Christ. They say they love the works I performed as man, but their manner of believing, thinking, and conceptualizing demonstrate that they do not know the essence of my doctrine. I came to show you the life of the Spirit, to reveal to you the powers contained in it. That is why I came to the world. I healed the sick with no medicine whatsoever. I spoke to the spirits, freed the possessed of strange and supernatural influences, spoke with nature, transfigured myself from man to spirit and spirit to man. And each of those works had the goal of showing you the road of the evolution of the spirit. You carry within you true treasures, powers and gifts you do not even guess at, but from ignorance you weep like paupers. What do you know of the power of prayer and the strength of thought? What do you know of the profound content of the communication between spirit and spirit? Nothing, you materialistic and carnal humanity. Spirituality is what I expect of the world. Before me, the names with which each sect or religion distinguishes itself have no importance, nor do the greater or lesser splendor of their rites and outward worship. Those things reach only human senses. They do not reach my spirit. I expect spirituality of men because it means the elevation of life, the ideal of perfection, the love of good, the worship of truth, the practice of charity, and harmony with oneself, which is harmony with others, and therefore with God. Spirituality does not mean mysticism, nor does it imply the performance of any rite, nor is it a form of external worship. Spirituality means the development of all the faculties of man, those that correspond to the human part, just as those that vibrate beyond the senses of the body, and which are the powers, attributes, faculties, and senses of the spirit. Spirituality is the fair and just application of all those gifts that man possesses. Spirituality is harmony with all that surrounds you. In that time I taught you the greatest virtue, which is charity. I inspired your hearts and sensitized your sentiments. Now I come to reveal to you all the gifts with which your spirit is endowed, so that you may develop them and apply them to doing charity among your fellow men. Knowledge of spiritual life will permit you to carry out works similar to those performed by your master. Remember what I told you, that upon developing your faculties, you would perform real prodigies. All of you possess the gifts of the Spirit, which are beginning to develop in this third era due to the evolution reached by the spirits. Intuition, foresight, revelation, prophecy, and inspiration are manifesting in a clear way among humanity, and it is this that proclaims the new era. It is the light of the book of the seven seals, opened in this era to the 6th chapter. You who know the reason of these manifestations and the era in which you live, channel your gifts into the road of love. be always prepared to offer your charity, and you will always be in harmony with my law, and serve as an example for your brothers. Then you will be my disciples, and be recognized as such. When men love and know how to forgive, when humility exists in their hearts, and they have made the Spirit impose itself over the material, the flesh, the world, and the passions will no longer form the thick veil that prevents you from looking back or forward on the road. On the contrary, the material, spiritualized by the practice of my doctrine, shall be like a docile servant to the dictates of the conscience, instead of what it is now, an obstacle, a trap, a blindfold over the eyes of the Spirit. Intuition, which is clairvoyance, presentiment, and prophecy, clears the mind and makes the heart beat in response to the messages and voices it receives from the infinite. By means of the gift of intuition, which I have given to all men, you may discover many things hidden among the heart's secret, many tragedies that affect not only the earthly lives, but also the spirits of your brothers. How can one enter the intimacy of those hearts without wounding them or profaning their secrets? How can one discover the hidden pains that shadow the lives of our brothers? I have already told you. Intuition, the gift that is part of spiritual sight and which will reach full development in you through prayer, shall show you the way to calm the pain of each one of your fellow men. How many mysteries still exist for man? He is surrounded by invisible and untouchable beings that should already be visible and touchable. A life full of beauty and revelations palpitates over the existence of men, and these, in their blindness, have not managed to see it. A man spiritually prepared by my doctrine will be able to perform superhuman works. From his spirit and body, a light, a power, and a strength will emanate, which will allow him to do which intelligence alone is not able to perform. This is the time in which the divine light shall shine plainly in my followers, who shall exhibit the gifts of the Spirit by showing that they do not need earthly goods, nor material sciences to perform charity and work prodigies. They shall heal in my name, curing the hopelessly ill, transforming water to healing balsam, and raising the dead from their deathbeds. Their prayer shall have the power to calm the wind, to assuage the elements and combat epidemics and evil influences. The possessed shall be relieved of their obsessions, their persecutors and their oppressors before the word, the prayer, and the power of my new disciples. Spirituality means the elevation of the sentiments, purity in life, faith, love of others, charity, humility before God, and profound respect for the gifts received. When you achieve any of these virtues, your spiritual gaze begins to enter the mansion of love and perfection. Therefore, when you reach a state of spirituality while still on earth, you will be able to say that you inhabit, at least in moments of prayer, the spiritual valley. At the same time, you shall receive the light that reveals events of the future. Because for the spirit that has begun to ascend, the future becomes less and less of a mystery. Yes, disciples, only in human life is man ignorant of what will happen in the future, of the events of tomorrow, not knowing his destiny, nor the path he shall have to follow, or what will be its end. Man could not bear the knowledge of all the trials that he will have to experience in his life. In my charity for him, I have created that veil between his present and his future, preventing him from losing his mind, knowing and beholding all which he will have to live and feel. In contrast, the spirit, a being strongly armored and created for eternity, has the power to know its destiny and the strength to understand and accept those trials that await it. For it knows that at the end of the road, when it has followed it with obedience to the law, it shall come to the promised land, the paradise of the Spirit, which is the state of evolution, purity, and perfection that it will reach in the end. You cannot reach the level of spirituality of your master in order to know what your destiny holds and what the future offers you, but by means of your elevation, I shall make you sense the nearness of some events. That presentiment, that seeing of the future, that knowledge of your destiny, you shall begin to achieve as your being, formed of body and spirit, continues ascending on the road of spirituality, which, I tell you again, is faith, purity, and the love of life. It is love and charity for your fellow men. It is humility and love before your Lord. Be alert, so that you can recognize the true prophets and the false, so that you do not fight against those who, like you, are fulfilling missions confided to them by my divinity, so that you may recognize the true prophets and the false, and confirm the works of these and destroy the works of the others. For this is the time when all the forces have arisen to battle. There is good fighting evil, the light against the darkness, wisdom against ignorance, and peace against war. Requirements and characteristics of authentic spiritualism. Understand that Judas exists in each man. Yes, disciples, because in your case, the material body is Judas to the spirit. It is the material that opposes the shining light of spirituality, that which besieges the spirit to make it fall into materialism, into the lower passions. But do not condemn your material form, because it brings you to the edge of the abyss. You need it for your advancement, and you will overcome it with your spirituality, as I overcame Judas with love. Before you rise up to teach my maxims and expose its concepts, you should begin by practicing the teachings that I have revealed to you, loving your fellow men, living an elevated life, sowing your path with light and charity. If you do not do this, then I can tell you now that you have not understood spirituality. It uncovers your essence, and by means of it, you can form a true concept of your Father and know yourselves. It is true that in order to achieve spirituality, you need a certain amount of renunciation and some effort and sacrifice. But if in you a yearning for elevation has awoken, if love has begun to vibrate in your being, or if the ideal of spiritualism has arisen in you, instead of sacrifices and self-denial, it will be a pleasure for you to cast off all that is useless, superfluous, or evil. Keep always in mind that before me you are all equal, that all of you had the same beginning, and that all bear the same purpose, though each destiny presents a different outward appearance. Never forget that all of you must come to me, which means that all, though in different ways, shall earn the merit necessary to reach the highest spiritual height. Therefore, never consider none to be inferior. Vanity should never sprout in a spiritualist. Rather should he be always accompanied by true modesty. His acts, therefore, instead of dazzling with false light, shall resound in the hearts of his brothers. The good sowers of spiritualism shall never be distinguished by the outward or the material. There shall be no habits, no insignia, nor any special manner of speaking for them. All their acts will be of simplicity and humility. If they are known for anything, it will be for their charity and spirituality. The true preachers of spiritualism shall not be noted by their floweriness of their language, but by the wisdom and simplicity of their words, but above all, for the truth in their works and the goodness of their lives. Spirituality is clarity, simplicity, the worship of love, and the struggle to reach the perfection of the Spirit. The blessed effects of spirituality. By means of spirituality, a degree of elevation can be reached that permits man to conceive of ideas beyond that which his mind can imagine, and have power over the material. Think now, if the elevation of the spirit were employed in the study of material creation presented by nature, or any other human ideal, what fruits could be obtained if your discoveries were due not only to examination by the mind, but also to the intervention of the spiritual revelations given to you by He who created all. When men achieve spirituality, they shall be creatures superior to all that surrounds them. Yet until now, they have been only weak beings at the mercy of the influences, the elements, and the forces that ought not to be above man, because they are not superior to him. I tell you truly that spirituality too is inherited, and so you should take care to transmit purity and a sensitivity to the spiritual to your children. They shall thank you for having the clarity to bestow on them a body with sane passions, a clear mind, a sensitive heart, and a spirit awake to the call of the conscience. The only goal of my work is the spirituality of all men, because in spirituality they shall have to identify and understand themselves. In spirituality they shall see disappear the names of the exterior forms of their religions, which have been the cause of the spiritual distancing brought about by each interpreting God differently. Then, when all on their different paths come closer to spirituality, they shall understand that all they have needed to do was liberate themselves from their materialism, in order to translate into spiritual form what they always took in a material way. Spirituality is all I ask of men in this time, and within what is right, they shall see their greatest ideals fulfilled and their greatest conflicts resolved.